Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player roguelike game, and we are mid-run here, so let's hop back in. We're doing a Savage Fury run, and our first run with the Unseen Elder as our key card. I had some reservations previously about it. I felt like Dogger, the other key card that we started off with, that we had success with in our first Savage run attempt, I felt like that was just going to be a better fit in general, although thus far, still early stages in this run, but Unseen Elder's been doing okay for us. We are about to hop into this battle here, followed soon thereafter by either an elite battle, or a normal battle, or an event, and I know I was talking before about how it felt like getting the upgrade on Unseen Elder would be a substantial improvement, but let's just take a closer look here for a second now. Get a little ahead of ourselves here, but I was thinking at first that because, okay, basically the way Unseen Elder works is you try to play him early to maximize the amount of bleed that he gives you, but once you upgrade him, rather than just giving bleed every turn and having that order ability that gives 4 bleed to a single enemy unit, it's an order that gives bleeding to, wait, hold on. End of your turn, give all, okay, no, it's this part, yeah. Give all non-bleeding enemy units 2 bleeding rather than just giving 1 or random non-bleeding enemy unit bleeding. So I think at first I looked at that and I thought, oh man, that's way more bleed than you'd usually get. Well, kind of, sort of, but not really. Because if you did make a point of playing Unseen Elder as early as possible, then you're probably going to give bleeding to every unit on the board, or very close to it, when you play him. And so really, the big difference here is only in 2 circumstances. One, if for whatever reason you can't play Unseen Elder early, and so your opponent already has several units on the board, sure, you can give one of them bleeding with the order ability, or one of them bleeding with the order ability, and you'll give 1 more bleeding at the end of every turn, but they're still just going to have more units than you have turns to give bleeding to unbleeding units. So this makes up for that because at the end of your turn you give bleeding to all non-bleeding units, so it's a way to, if for whatever reason you have to play Unseen Elder late, you still get some value out of him. But the thing is, since we have acquired the Magnifying Spyglass and we can guarantee that at worst we're drawing into Unseen Elder on our second turn, that upgrade is not so significant anymore. The other way that it could still be relevant for us would be if our opponent is able to get multiple units on the board per turn. That way, even if we get an early Unseen Elder on the board, sure, we can give bleeding to the first unit that they get on the board per turn, but if they are getting 2 or 3 or 4 units on the board in one turn, then, you know, that second, third, and fourth card, we're not giving bleeding to those, so eventually they'll have more units than we have ability to apply bleed. So my first impression was that this upgrade was substantial. There are some circumstances in which it could benefit us, but it's definitely not as good as I initially thought it was, and the fact that we had the Magnifying Spyglass means that it is not as relevant as it would otherwise be. So that makes me wonder if this is even worth doing at all, when normal battles give us the option of picking up good card additions to this deck. Generally speaking, as we've said before, seems like this deck has a lot of stuff that we start off kind of weak. I'm not sure we've seen this enemy before. A lot of stuff in our starting deck that is not terribly strong, but some great cards that we can add to it. Let's see, is this a hard enemy? It is. I do not think we've seen you. Lantern Bearer Wraith. Reminds me of the Penitent from Witcher 3. Now, there is actually a card that is named Penitent, so it's not exactly that, but at the end of your turn, if you control 6 or more specters, damage all enemy units by 5. Whoa! That looks pretty nasty. Okay, so presumably that means top priority is make sure that whenever they get a Spectre on the board, we are getting rid of that stuff as quickly as possible. Otherwise, if they get up to 6, we are in pretty serious trouble. It kind of feels like one of those circumstances where it's one of those enemies, if they meet the condition for their leader ability, it's an automatic win for them. Kind of like, I forget, the Highland Warlord, is it? The one that destroys all of your units if it gets up to, like, Bloodthirst 6 or something like that. It's not quite as extreme as that, but fortunately we do have a damage deck, so hopefully we can take care of those specters. Now, Panther's probably not going to be a great option to make that happen. Protoflutter, not one of our better damage dealers either. We're looking for bigger, chunkier damage, which admittedly is not necessarily what we specialize in. We're better at little pokes and prods here and there, with things like Rain from Melusine Cultist, random damage from the Drummond Berserker, Protoflutter and Bleed, and similar with Unseen Elder, just 1 damage per turn. So, that's not what I wanted to see. Let's go Magnifying Spyglass. And what do we want here? I think this is probably an encounter in which we'll be looking to use a lot of Thunder, I imagine. Possibly... Oh, right, no, we didn't take Thunderstorm. Maybe even Portal. But we shall see. So as I said, Unseen Elder on one hand does give us a lot of damage. It's just not great at removing cards. It's great at weakening cards, yes, but not great at removing cards because the damage is slow and damage over time. So I think we might still take you early. So as we were saying, the earlier you get him, the better. But Synthesis Blaze is a bigger burst of damage, and Drog also kind of slow damage as well. 1 damage per turn, assuming we get some Revenants on the board, but that's a bigger chunk with Ulfhead in. I think we go like that. And we'd love to draw into Ulfhead if we can, but that's, of course, not guaranteed. I think what we'll do first here, since we don't have anything to damage, that means Drummond Berserker is a waste on this turn, as is Panther. Melusine Cultist, we can't guess what row they're going to have cards in, so that's not great. You don't have anything to damage on deploy. It's looking like this is a Greatsword first kind of turn. And hopefully they don't have damage to immediately destroy you before you get healed up, because I don't know what to expect. I'm thinking probably the Night Wraith card. Apiarian Phantom, that is damage and boost, but not enough damage to remove. Even if they do that, not enough damage to remove us. So let's see. Veil Zeal, is it the same as multiplayer Gwent? Damage an enemy unit by 3. At the end of your turn, if the order is not used, boost self by 1. Okay, so I'm surprised they use the order, because if they don't use the order, it gets boosted by 1. If they do, then they just get the 3 damage, but it wasn't enough to remove you. Oh, I hate the Veil, though. That means we can't use Bleed on Unseen Elder. That does stink. And with their armor, technically, if we were to use Sheila, we'd have enough damage to break through it, or we could go Thunder and we'd have enough damage to break through it, because I want to at least get a tiny bit of healing on you. Otherwise, we're at very easily removable range. So yeah, this doesn't work, at least not in the short term. Run Berserker doesn't have enough damage to break through the armor. Technically, you do. Could do this and then Thunder and remove you again. Since it's no longer an engine, it's not a huge deal. Let's do this. Heals you up a little bit, and then just in case, we'll go Thunder here. I mean, we could go Cleanse and boost you up by 3, but we get a little more value from this. 4 points versus 3 points. You're a little more vulnerable than if we had just given you a 3-point boost, but we'll take our chances there. A Haunts scenario. Have we seen any scenarios yet? I'm not sure if we have. In multiplayer Gwent, they are known as one of, if not the strongest cards. So basically, if they play Death Wish units, then they will trigger the next scenario, which means they will get a new card in addition to the one that they play directly from their hand. So it's kind of like 3 cards built into one, starting with this Desert Banshee that just spawns in immediately. This is a Spectre, so this is a card we'd like to destroy. And now, fortunately, it does not have Veil. So that means we could go for Unseen Elder here and start to get some value out of that. So that's not a bad option. Still want to try to get rid of the Spectres quickly, though. Guess we'll go this route. Earlier the better.
Must be secure.
Question is, do we use the order ability here, or since you're not bleeding, do we just get the automatic 2 points of bleeding? I think we go that route. We're not healing up the Greatsword at all, at least not immediately, which means this is still going to remain a little bit vulnerable here. This will get damaged by 1 at the end of their turn. Also, it is likely to consume... There is Penitent. Likely to consume something. which means it will get much harder to remove. Yeah, that's the problem with the consuming specters is higher power on them means that they are, well, tougher to get rid of. This is destroyable. However, if it gets destroyed, it has Death Wish, so this triggers. It will summon a random unit from their deck to that row. Is that unit going to be a Spectre, in which case it might not be beneficial for us to go that route? That's something we need to ask ourselves. I think we will probably put the bleed on the Barghest here, because it has a lot of power, so we can benefit from that 4 turns bleeding, and they have 2 units on the board, so we'll still get the bleeding on a non-bleeding unit here on the Penitence. For what it's worth, a consumption deck, which appears to be what they have here, where they absorb the power of 1 unit and get rid of it, but gain it in this other card. It's basically just reallocating the power to a different unit, but it means they can consume cards that have the bleed and get rid of that bleed. So it is a bit of a counter in that way. What would we like to go for next? I mean, can we weaken you enough to get you into the 20 Revenant range? Possibly, but then again, we don't really want to be doing that yet, because we'd be fine converting the Panther, and in truth, probably should put Unseen Elder here, and then set up Drog here on the Panther, because it's not doing anything anymore, whereas these guys need to stay in their current form, otherwise we're losing value there. Like, once you get fully healed, we could convert you into a Revenant, but not yet. Not yet. So I think that means we're going to Synthesis Blaze here. And that is a card that once it uses its charges, we're fine converting. So why don't we put all the cards we're willing to convert here? This is definitely going to remain unconverted for probably the entirety of this match. So do this. It'll take a little bit of time before we can actually use those charges, but once we can, that's obviously a lot of damage. That'll heal you up a lot, as will the bleed from this. And we said probably want to go that route. If we were to use, say, a portal and get something like a Morkvarg to damage an enemy unit until it is damaged, in this case, that would be, what, you start off as a 6, it would get you down to a 5, that'd be a lot, but we won't commit to that just yet. There's the free bleed, and they could consume this if they wanted to. Get rid of the bleed here, and in doing so also trigger the Death Wish, it's certainly possible. Hugo, damage one of their units by 3, it might be this. It is not. They do the consumption. They summoned out a Noon Wraith, which will spawn rats in our row if we destroy it. So that's actually, in some ways, beneficial for us. Ooh. And this is interesting. If we were to hit you for 5, it heals you all the way up to your 10. Then we could use Drog to convert both these guys. At that point, they've gotten their full value. And there's a 1 power unit for us to eat with our K20 Revenants. I do like the looks of that. I think we go that route. So we do this first. You've used all your charges, so you are no longer significant. We can convert you. You've fully healed. Now, if you get damaged again, then, of course, it would be nice to be able to heal you again. But instead, we'll convert with Drog, and it gives us a lot of time here. If they have additional 1 power units. And we fortunately did not get the bleed on you, otherwise that would have prevented us from using this combo, which I did not even consider, but we lucked out a bit there. Okay, so now we go and we eat you. We'll spawn in some rats on our side of the board, and we now have a new Revenant. We don't have a great target for the damage here. You will get boosted by 2 whenever you are not the highest unit on the board, and this, and this are right now. So, let's see, we have not yet actually played a card. That was just us using the order ability on this Revenant. So what do we want to go for next? The Cultist gains value over time. We'd like to play that soon. Protoflutter, if we had something that has a lot of bleed on it, and to a certain extent here with the Barghest. In some ways, we'd like to have done this as soon after we use the Unseen Elder order ability as possible. So maybe that is the right option here. Don't have a great last turn play, though. And in some ways, despite the fact that we'd like to get as much power out of Protoflutter as possible, this is the one thing that can get full value immediately. So, I mean, we won't get the full value out of the bleed, I suppose. But my point is, we'd like to have these guys convert. We'd like to get the full boostage out of the Melusine Cultist, and we'd like to get this order ability as well. So it's a little bit awkward having a finisher here. Well, not having a finisher here. But let's go. I mean, this might not be all that significant. I suppose it's not the end of the world if we play you last, and, well, we'd like to at least get the order and the boost. Yeah, now this is worth a fair bit. So, yeah, I think we'll save you for last in that case. And we'll try to get some cards down lower into the 1 power range where we can have something to attack with the Revenants, because we don't want to use this order ability until they have a 1 power unit. Ideally, we could set that up a little bit with Thunder, and maybe be able to make that happen. Here is, ooh, they're going to give us some great options here. More Spectres. Need to be a little bit careful of that. That was the last round of Haunts, is how they got this Night Wraith out there. So now this scenario has done its full thing, but Night Wraith spawns in Rats, which are 1 power units, which means easy targets for our K20 Revenants to go after. So that we shall do. So again, really good value out of this. We need to be mindful, however, of its 6 Spectres or more, where they start to get the extra damage. So we have 1, 2, and 3 on the board right now. You are removable with a Thunder, and that would spawn in 2 more Rats, which could then be even more targets for the Revenant. I think we save that for our next turn because, as we saw before, or could have seen before, if Unseen Elder happens to give the bleeding to one of those Rats on this turn, then there goes one of our preferred targets for the Revenants on our next turn. So let's hold back on that for now, and instead, why don't we go... I'd like to keep as much room as possible for as many Revenants to spawn in here as possible. So I think we go Cultist here.
Accept this offering that we might make the coast safely.
Okay, well, we were going to destroy this anyway, unless you're about to boost it further. Fortunately, you did not. That is the worst card to boost. You do not want to boost a Beast, because you want other cards to be the highest one on the board, so you get the free boost out of this, so that was just silly on their part. That was one of the few misplays we've seen from our opponents. I think we will still opt for a little bit of Thunder there. I mean, do we need it? Possibly not yet. Technically, Sheila does have the damage to destroy you with her deploy ability, so maybe we just go that route.
My studies are more important than this.
Gets rid of one of their Spectres, which is nice. Spawns in 2 more Rats, which means 2 more targets for you guys. This Drog and the Revenants that come with it have been very helpful for us. Then get the rain going. Okay, that's another Spectre that is going to give 2 more 1 power units, which means 2 more targets for these guys. Except we are now out of space. Out of space for the Revenants. So at this point, I mean, we could remove you. Wouldn't really do us much good. We could deliberately save this in case they happen to have some damage and remove one of these Revenants. Suddenly we do have room, and so then we just bide our time and do eventually get another Revenant out here. But what we might want to do is, once again, just limit the Spectre count. Because they have, what? They need to get up to 6. They have 1, 2, 3 right now. They have 2 more cards in hand, which presumably means they would not be able to get all the way up to 6 at this point unless they somehow have a way of getting 2 Spectres from one of these cards. So it's pretty unlikely. So I don't think we need to worry about that too much. But maybe wait it out a bit here. Now we might end up having this Berserker hit you, and then we lose one of our 1 power targets. But as we said, we don't really need those so much anymore. Worst comes to worst, we hit this Night Wraith with Sheila, and then we do have more 1 power Rats that will spawn in, so that's not really a concern. Okay, it's another Night Wraith.
Your blood will warm my bones.
Okay, so, I mean, we can destroy this now, and it would spawn 1 power Rats on our side, but that's actually... This is the downside of the Rats, is Rat Flood is actually a strategy, can be a meme strategy, multiplayer Gwent, where you deliberately flood your opponent's side of the board with these weak 1 power cards and make it tough for them to play the cards they actually want to use, which could have become a factor. Now we can still fit in this Proto-Flutter here, which is obviously going to be more valuable than a 1 power Rat would be. But that's why, you know, if we had done this first, that could have been problematic. And now, I mean, take your pick. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 specters. Oh, they have one more than I thought they had? They might have. Okay, so they still shouldn't be able to reach that threshold. And even if they did, I think we have a large enough lead here that that isn't really much of a concern, because we just got absolutely carried by all these Revenants. It's pretty sweet. It's Sabrina's Inferno, which if it destroys cards for 1 damage, we'll keep on going, but alas, doesn't matter here. Turned out to be a pretty easy win. Really nice matchup for us. Cool enemy. Haven't really seen too much Death Wish from our opponents thus far. I think we're looking to add. Oh, but disappointed by our options here. We have plenty of Drummond Berserkers. It's an okay but not amazing card. Reveal a unit in our opponent's deck, boost self by its power. Dice roll could potentially be good, but might get unlucky and get a 1-point boost, and then it's quite weak. Also, it's boosting and it's not damage, so it's not a great fit. Bruxa, Thrive, which is good for boosts, and Bleed, a little bit of Bleed, which we have some stuff that synergizes with that, but very underwhelming. To be honest, let's see what we can remove. Could remove a Drone Berserker, which ominously might even be better than adding one, because it is, I mean, to start off with, it was one of the sort of middle-of-the-road cards in our starting deck, but now that we've added some nice things like the Drog, we have the threshold, or at least the place where we draw the line in the sand of, this is the type of card that we want to play. And these are the cards that are no longer good enough for us to want to play in a match. That line is moving in the sand. And so, where once upon a time, Drone Berserker at the very beginning was a card we very well may have wanted to use, not as much anymore. So we might actually want to remove this. I think we do. And that means we just have a higher probability of getting the cards that we want. And now we find ourselves staring down the situation we were previewing before, where yes, we have an elite battle, but I think I was overestimating how important, how beneficial this would be for us to complete. In large part because we can get Unseen Elder out almost immediately with Magnifying Spyglass. So it just feels like, if that is one of the greatest benefits of upgrading Unseen Elder, is making it so that even a late Unseen Elder is effective. We know we're not going to get a late Unseen Elder, so why bother? So I think we go for a normal battle here. And as I was saying, most of the time, we've gotten some options for some pretty nice units to add to our deck. Not last time, but we got rid of one of the weaker ones, and maybe this time around we'll add something stronger. I think that's going to make a more significant positive impact than an elite battle is. And obviously, this should be easier and require less energy and whatnot, so I think it's better for a couple of reasons. Okay, have we seen Slave Catcher? Not sure we've seen this guy either. So that's pretty cool. I think we've now had a couple of encounters here that we've never seen before. Whenever a unit appears on the enemy row with at least 5 of their units, lock it and damage it by 3. Whoa. Also says whenever a unit appears, not when you play a unit, when it appears. And that is particularly significant for the Drog, because that means that if we're spawning in Kidwani Revenants, those Revenants are going to get locked once they spawn in very quickly. I mean, sure, if we do it almost immediately, it may not be 5 units on that side of the board. It's not a hard version of this enemy. But, I mean, it's still a 3-power unit that gets spawned in, so there's some value there, but it's going to be much, much harder to chain a bunch of Revenants together like we did in the previous encounter. So I think we get rid of Panthers here. Drawn to Sheila, we should Magnifying Spyglass. And technically speaking, Unseen Elder has Veil, which means it can't get locked. So it can avoid the effect of this ability. Granted, by the time we're playing, I mean, we're going to play Unseen Elder almost immediately. So it's not going to be in a row. It's not going to be the unit that we play in a row that already has 5 or more units. So it's not going to be relevant in this case. Protoflutter is nice because deploy abilities can't really get locked. So that's fine. That's also fine. That's also fine. It's things like whenever an enemy unit takes damage, heal self by 1, the engine-like stuff from the Greatsword that could get shut down by that. So I think we might deliberately not choose a Greatsword Or you could make the case we try to draw into it early so we can play it before it gets locked, and then we're just finishing the match with stuff like Jenga, Ulfhedin, and Protoflutter, who do not care about the locks nearly as much. Depends. What other cards we have in hand here? The Urn Engine that we want to play early. You need to get played early so you don't get locked. Also an engine. We were saying this could be an issue. Sheila. Definitely at least get the deploy, but we want to get that order as well, so could be a little awkward. I think we are going to try to focus in that case on deploy abilities. And if we do get a greatsword, then might be just an unfortunate thing. It's going to be hard to work, but we'll do that. So why don't we should start with the stuff that is most sensitive to getting locked. It shouldn't be a factor early. I'm actually curious to see, are they going to spawn cards on our side of the board and make it so that we reach that 5-unit threshold more quickly? I don't know. That'd be clever. Okay, is it just a whole bunch of lock? Because that is obviously what that does. Here's Unseen Elder, so that's unfortunate. We missed out on 5 damage there. But Unseen Elder with Veil means that he cannot get locked. So he is a very nice counter in that way. So I think what we'll do here is maybe... want to try to split units across the 2 different rows so that, you know, we can prolong the amount of time we have until their leader ability starts kicking in. So, like, for now, we can continue to play cards in this row, no problem. But eventually, that will reach the 5-unit threshold. That will become a factor. Okay, Philippe. Okay, so he's a bit of a threat. Because if units have statuses, he can deal 2 damage rather than 1, and that Veil is still a status. So they should technically go after Unseen Elder, and we'd, of course, like to keep him. So, what if... and we could go Sheila, and then Thunder, remove Philippe, and just not worry about him. Because I don't like the way that he can shut down Unseen Elder fairly quickly. That is a bit of a concern. I think we do that. We can still play cards here in this row. Yes, we could just get the bleed on him, and eventually he would get destroyed. True. But I think the earlier we shut him down, the more we limit the damage he has. So I think it still pays off. Okay, Hunting Pack will summon another copy out. Because we have a status, and in multiplayer Gwent, you can only have 2 copies of the same card in your deck. But that's not the case in Rogue Mage. They actually got 2 summoned out, so they had 3 total. So that was decent. That was not a bad play. But we are getting close to reaching that threshold now of 5 cards in a row. So it's 5 or more, at least 5. So we have 1 more card we can play safely, 1 more engine we can play safely in this row. What do we want it to be? I think we go probably with Drone Berserker. It's an engine that needs a couple of turns, not a ton of time, but it's a few turns. So why don't we do this?
If I go down, I'm taking you with me.
No high priorities to remove with Sheila, but we could just hit you for the sake of hitting you, in case they have a way of dealing damage to her and preventing us from getting this 3 damage, so we won't get greedy there. Unseen Elder could use the 4 bleed, but I think what we'll do is we'll wait on that. We'll get the free bleed on someone who's not already bleeding. That is not the way we wanted that random stuff to spread out there. Bleed and random damage on the same unit that was about to get destroyed. Now here's the part where we get to return the favor. So, because this guy is going to get boosted by 1 every turn since we have a locked unit, what if we lock their unit so it no longer gets boosted every turn? Now the deploy ability can still trigger before the lock takes effect. So I believe we can still do this. You'll get locked after the fact. Or does this only trigger on their turn? Not entirely sure, order of operations wise, when this takes effect. But now you're shut down. And I was going to say we'd, wait to use Unseen Elder until the Order ability, at least. Hey, can you please stop hitting the units that we give bleeding to? That's a card that gets boosted whenever we gain the status.
A taste of morphling, is it?
So this is the highest priority card to destroy. And for that reason, we would perhaps like to start damaging you before you get too carried away. Now, we, at this point, need to play everything in the melee row. Otherwise, it's going to immediately get locked, and that's going to boost you up. So, don't have great sources of immediate damage here, other than Ulfhedden, which technically this plus Thunder is enough to immediately destroy you. That's maybe not the best Ulfhedden. So I think we just go Cultist here.
Lead us across wave crests.
And you can make the case for Unseen Elder on this Thirsty Dame to help weaken it up a little bit. But we'll hold off for the time being. We should do this soon, though, because there are not very many turns left. Okay, they're going to give a big boost to one of their cards. What is it? It's going to get locked. And actually damaged by 3 as well, so immediately destroyed. But that did give even more boost to Thirsty Dame. So now I think we do probably... Well, we can get much more value out of Ulfhedden at this point, right? So what if we go... do this? 6 points of damage rather than what we would have been 2. So yes, I greatly prefer that. We should use Melusine Cultist in this row, so that way we're getting boosts. And we'd like to get the other Melusine Cultist out here as well. As we were saying, Drog unfortunately doesn't work very well in this encounter. You have been locked, which you could make a case is reason to try breaking out Drog here. Now, they don't have any 1-power cards. Probably won't, unless we... Or we should use this now. I think we might just get the maximum value on Protoflutter here. And maybe next turn it's Drog, and we just accept that Melusine Cultist is basically going to do not much of anything. I mean, we could put you here, and there's already Rain, so it boosts for 2. Yeah, I guess we do that.
Great is her hunger, and great is her power.
Okay, we'll give the bleed now. It's 1 less bleed than 1 less boost we would normally get on Protoflutter if we had played it on the same turn that we used that ability, but we'll be fine. More lock, probably on you.
Few poachers dare venture into
It's more boost for you. So again, you can make a decent case for converting Drog here. Or using Drog to convert all these guys because they've done all their stuff. And they're locked, so can't really do anything else now. But at that point, the Revenant would be the 5th unit in the row, which again, not entirely sure exactly how the timing of this works, but it could potentially mean that it immediately gets locked and can't do anything. They don't have any 1-power units unless we happen to get a random bleed from Unseen Elder on this hunting pack, in which case it would be a potential target for a Revenant. Basically, I think we just prioritize maximizing boosts on this Protoflutter and not worrying too much about Drog. It's just going to turn into a 10-point slam. Vadier stealing a locked unit? Yes, correct. Do we have any really high-power locked units? At best, they're stealing a 5. I mean, it's something. It's not really a huge concern. Obviously, at 3 power, it's possible to remove him with Thunder, which would normally be what you'd do. I'm just not sure we need to spend the energy to do that. So that is the counter, and we could. But why bother? So we do unlock these Revenants when they get converted into Revenants. I guess we had enough of them that we could have eventually... this wouldn't have gotten the death blow, but, if we hit you for 1 damage, then the second one could trigger the death blow and so on and so forth. So it was still possible to do some things with you guys, but I just don't think it's, ultimately wasn't necessary. And also means now, they're going to seal this anyway, but yeah, that's not going to be enough. It's a cool enemy. Love to see the ones that we've not yet encountered, but not that difficult. As we were saying, I think technically, depending on what we find here, could be more valuable of an addition than the upgrade from the Elite Battle. We have a very high power, high base power Nausicaa Sergeant. It is a boosting card, not a damaging card, so it doesn't synergize that well with what we have. It is another early round play, and we have a lot of those, a lot of engines. We're looking more for finishers, and Gregoire is a finisher. If we can get one of our opponent's cards down to 1 power, similar to the setup we're looking for the Revenants, then he gets a 10-point boost and a shield, turning him into a 17, or 18 if you factor in that 1 point of damage. So that is really nice if we can pull it off. We do have a lot of damage, so it is somewhat feasible to make that work with a little bit of planning, a little bit of forethought. But Ulfhedden, I mean, it's not any more of a powerful version than usual. We obviously already have one, but it is a solid finisher. I think I might lean toward Gregoire, though, because also just the 3 higher base power and the 1 damage on deploy. At worst, he's an 8. And that would mean, at worst, that would be Ulfhedden targeting an 8 power unit, which is, I mean, that certainly can happen, but that's a decent Ulfhedden. And if a decent Ulfhedden is equal to worst case scenario Gregoire, but Gregoire can be significantly better than that. I mean, Ulfhedden can as well, but not really sure how often we're going to see super highly boosted cards. I think we go Gregoire. So we need finishers, and that is one of them. So I do think that actually was likely preferable to the Elite Battle. And now we can either go a Place of Power, well, I mean, we don't have a particular need to restore energy here, for what it's worth, because we loaded up on it early and have not needed to spend it much. That was another reason why skipping the Elite Battle, I think, will ultimately prove beneficial for us. Don't remember what the various colors do, and given how we have a decent amount of energy, we might be looking to take the alternate approach at the Place of Power. This one gives us an option of either going event or battle, whereas this one we're just guaranteed to go into the battle next, so this one has a little more flexibility. I feel like this one is the Empower. This one might be the Remove, but I don't trust myself with that assumption. I guess we go here, just because it at least gives us the option. I think we're going to go duplicate a card. Ooh. Okay. Nifty. We'll do it. And we can duplicate anything but our key card. We can even duplicate the Magnifying Spyglass. Now that's probably overkill. Yes, prioritizing 3 cards we can draw into is amazing. Anything more than that, and we're talking about, I mean, we could guarantee that we get finishers in. You know, you can go and make sure you get the Unseen Elder early and other engines early, Drog, and then toward the ends, go for the Ulfheddens and Gregoires of the world, and basically just completely lock in what you're getting for the entire match, which is nice. But is that better than, say, getting a second Drog? I mean, 2 Drogs is actually kind of troublesome, because as we've seen, when you have a well-set-up Drog, it basically fills an entire row with Revenants, and filling 2 rows entirely with Revenants is tough to play anything else. This is the Blue Dragon, is our final boss, and I think flooding our rows is actually very helpful against it, because that means they can't do the movement-y stuff, and they have some ways to move our cards and immediately destroy them when they do so. So, in some ways, it's a bit of a counter, but 1 Drog may be enough of a Drog in that circumstance. So, what do we actually want as our second card? I mean, it might actually be Magnifying Spyglass. It might actually be Magnifying Spyglass. I think it is. You know what? Basically just have absolute perfect consistency here. And now we have the choice of either events or battle, and I think we go battle. Because we have had good success adding new cards to our deck. One exception previously, but I think we hop in. Ferocious Ice Giant. I think we've seen it before. There's our double Magnifying Spyglass. It is the normal version of it. Yeah, this is weird. I mean, we were talking last time about how it felt like we were always getting the hard version of enemies. Even normal enemy encounters, of course. But and I wondered if maybe that was a way of the game kind of balancing out if you've won several matches in a row, several runs in a row. But now we've gotten several normal enemies in a row, so maybe it was just coincidence. Okay, so what we can do here is we can swap out cards we don't particularly like in our starting hand. So I think we get review and we get review. Drew into some great things, drew into some more great things, and now with double magnifying spyglass, we will draw 4 cards. Okay, so yeah, we're magnifying spyglass. The second round is only guaranteeing the final card that we draw into. So okay, maybe it wasn't gonna be all that great for us, but alas. Now what we can do is why don't we get... We want engines early and finishers late. So if we're going to get 4 more cards, it's probably 1, 2, 3, and our 4th might be the cultist. Actually, remind me what this guy does. Destroy an allied unit, then boost another allied unit by the destroyed unit's power and spawn frost with the same duration in enemy row. Cooldown 3. It's almost like Death Wish. And they'll have weather effects, which damage us, so I think the Greatsword will be nice. That was a card we could have considered duplicating. What if we... So we'd like an engine early. So we do need one of these guys. Guess we'll go for you. So you... Then you two... And then we want Gregoire... Last. Oh, I mean... Sure, we have to pick the other ones as well, but there. Actually, ooh. Okay, I'm not sure, order of operations-wise, come to think of it. There's a chance that second magnifying spyglass is going to be the one that eventually puts cards at the top of our deck, and that first one does not, because the order you click them matters. But I had assumed that the first magnifying spyglass was going to be top of our deck, and then the second magnifying spyglass was going to be the next 3 cards below that. But on second thought, I'm thinking it's probably the other way around, where second spyglass is going to be cards 1, 2, and 3, and then first spyglass is going to be cards 4, 5, and 6. So hopefully this is just a normal encounter, not too difficult. It's a decent time to test this out. And as I was saying, in truth, the second magnifying spyglass is probably not as good as I anticipated because it only is functionally helping us out with 1 card draw anyway. But we shall see. We shall see. So, start things off. We'd like to get some kind of engine out here. Or set up an engine with the Synthesis Blaze. So why don't we go this route? We know they may have some damage. Weather effects will not immediately destroy you unless they have additional damage on top of that. So, I don't know. Sure, we'll throw a quick lens out there just to play it safe here at the very beginning. So we'd like to have you stick around. I don't remember their deck very much. Fuka. Drive? I mean, we can destroy it immediately. It is a powerful engine, so it is nice. Okay, and yes. Oh, wait. Hold on. Yeah, this was the first card we picked with the second magnifying spyglass, so it is, as I suspected. The second magnifying spyglass gives you cards 1, 2, and 3 in order. The first magnifying spyglass gives you cards 4, 5, and 6 in order. So, little counterintuitive there, but good thing that we confirmed that here in this battle that is probably not going to be all that difficult, rather than, say, the final boss battle, and we totally mess everything up. That would be bad. So, let's also anticipate a little bit where we might want to play the Drog, because once we use these charges, we don't need you anymore. Once you've been healed, we don't need you anymore. You can be converted as well. So we could play you both in the same row. This is not quite enough to fully heal up the Greatsword, especially because we don't even have anything to do with the last charge. But we took out an engine. Powerful engine, which is always nice. Ice Giant, just a whole bunch of base power. Yep, these are the guys that we did not necessarily want. But, or at least in this order. Wait, was it? Yeah, no, this was... As I said previously, it was the order that I suspected it might end up being. We'll hit you just to heal you up a little bit more because we might want to try to set up Drog quickly. Now, obviously, we haven't played Unseen Elder yet, which is something we would like to do, but wasn't necessary on our previous turn because we could destroy the first card altogether. Ooh, that's probably going to destroy you. Okay, well, alas, now we probably will go with the Unseen Elder. Yeah, so actually, Means we're not going to get the second and third cards we picked with this group, which was what? I don't remember what order we did them in. I think we might be getting Protoflutter, but no Sheila. I think we'll be fine, but yeah, it is definitely significant. Okay, so let's do this.
Why should I help you?
Don't need to use this ability yet. We should wait until we get Protoflutter, ideally, assuming we do get him. And the bleed damage that you take at the end of your turn should be enough to get you up to full power, which means next turn we can go Drog in this row, convert you guys to Revenants. And then we have that set up. Ooh, don't like the Cave Troll. Not a fan of the Cave Troll. Ooh, yeah, no, it was another melee scene cultist. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so no Protoflutter in that case at all. We can hit you with a lot of bleed, and I think that is probably worth doing. So, Defender is a status, notably, that prevents us from targeting anything else in this row, which means Lock does not remove it. Lock is just another status in addition to that. What we would need to do to get rid of it would be Purification, which we do not have in this deck. We could also, if we were to, we felt so inclined, we could go Portal and see if we happen to get Morkvarg and hit you until you're damaged, and at that point, it would deal a lot of damage, but also Ulfhedin. How exactly does this work? Destroy an allied unit, then boost another allied unit by the destroyed unit's power. Doesn't say. Presumably it's just random how it chooses that. So I'm wondering if this is going to get even taller still, if they use another leader ability to boost this up, in which case waiting on Ulfhedin could be worth doing, but this might be as big as it gets. It has 4 armor, so it is mitigating some of the damage, but still not bad. I think we're either way, we should do that. We were going to get free bleed on it for 2 turns. I guess we could wait 1 turn and it would have been beneficial, but we do this. You've already used your ability when we play you. So that means that Grog could convert you. That still was going to be the plan, but the Cave Troll has shut that down quite a bit. That's a fairly big ghoul. And, but it is, at least at present, smaller than the Cave Troll, and the bleed is eventually going to make Cave Troll smaller, but why don't we like to get Melee Scene Cultist out here to give it time to do its boosting.
Lead us across wave crests. Lead us.
There's still no great targets for the Melee Scene Cultist from Drog, and at this point, the Greatsword can still get healed, so we're kind of hoping this can still heal itself back up to a 10, or be the card that keeps on getting damaged by this Frost, because it can heal it off, whereas Synthesis Blaze cannot. So, right now, Synthesis Blaze would be what gets hit by the Frost. Well, you're going to get damaged by 1, healing you up to an 8, so it's a 50-50 chance. If we hit you with a Thunder, then you'll get up to a 9 by the end of their next turn, so the Frost will hit you, and will continue to be healing you every turn. That's kind of nice. It might not be necessary. This might be overkill, but we'll do it. So we're also trying to get some weaker cards here, so that we can get something for the Revenants to do. So we'll apply some rain. Unfortunately, what's probably going to happen is they're going to destroy this with their leader ability on their next turn, trigger that Death Witch, which will boost their highest power card by 4, which meant holding onto Ulfhedin could have actually been quite useful. We can't lock you because you're hiding behind a defender, so Jenga doesn't really work here. I think what we'll do, might go Panther, damage you by 2, get you down to a 2. Bleed will lower you down to a 1, which, depending on who gets boosted from this, might mean we have the setup for Drog. Might. Okay, it's another Bridge Troll. Where does this boost go? Well, they actually destroyed... No, they destroyed the card that we wanted to have be our target. They did not destroy the Death Wish card, though, so it made it hard for us to make Drog work, but on the other hand, it was not worth that many points, and we could lock you with Jenga, so that's kind of nice. Technically, we could Thunder and then get you into Deathblow range for Gregoire. Is that necessary? Maybe not. So, at this point, I think what we will do is we probably will still choose to use Drog here. Miss out on potentially a little bit of healing on the Greatsword, but it gives us some time to at least get the damage going on the 3 Revenants that we'll create, because remember, they don't have the ability to use that order immediately. They need a turn to set up, and if we are going to spawn in any subsequent Revenants, they will also need 1 more turn to set up. So yeah, if you get lower, that'd be nice. Spear Tip is a big point slam. Okay, so collectively across the 3 of these guys, 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage, we could get the Death Blow on the last Revenant. If we wait a turn, then the bleed will weaken you a little bit, and we can get it on the second Revenant, so that's kind of nice. On the other hand, we'd also like to get the Death Blow on Gregoire, which is actually worth significantly more. So, technically speaking, we prefer to trigger your Death Blow. So, what if... Ooh. Kind of like to lock you before we destroy you, though. So that way, we're not giving you extra points. So I think we do this.
You're coming with me, dead or alive.
Lock you. You'll take 1 damage from bleed. We'll poke you for 1 damage with the Revenant. And that way, next turn we have the option of either going Gregoire or going with Revenant. Please don't destroy this. Okay, I mean, you will boost this up, triggering that Death Blow, or Death Wish. But now... Oh. 1 more turn of bleed damage, and we could have gotten the Death Blow on a bunch of people. But yeah, we have to basically choose, is it Gregoire or is it the Revenants? And I think it is probably best to go Gregoire, because that's worth a lot more than just spawning in a 3 power unit. So, very nearly enough here. Very nearly. Again, if we had used Thunder, we could have made it happen, but given the advantage we have right now, that just doesn't seem like that's necessary. They will use their leader ability at the end of their turn. They still have a decent point line, but it's not enough for them to catch us, so we're doing fine. Okay, so Furious Ice Giants defeated. No problem. Let's see what we can add. Great Oak is pretty awesome, giving us a huge burst of damage or boosts, and a finisher, which again is something that we're generally looking for a little bit more here. So we have good engines, but not as much in the way of good finishers. Now, Enraged Ifrit is kind of just a worse version of the Great Oak, or technically a lower risk version. You're always getting at least 5 damage, whereas this one depends a bit on how many cards you have. Presumably we'll have enough units on the board to get more than 5 damage out of it. So Great Oak looks really good. We'll just check what the remove option is. I mean, we could get rid of a Panther, which would be kind of nice, because at this point, we'll add the Great Oak. But I think from here on out, we have enough good cards and enough consistency that we can just say, okay, every good card that we have, we can guarantee that we play it. Or at least guarantee that we draw into it. The only downside we potentially have is if we start off with one of our weak bronze cards in our hand and we can't mulligan into anything better. So at this point, the best way to improve our deck is not to add new cards unless we have something that is substantially better than some of the good cards that we already have. Our best way is, from here on out, likely to remove things like certainly Panthers, possibly Drone Berserkers, Valucine Cultists, things of that sort, because we can basically play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 good cards here. And so we're never going to play more than that many cards in a match, right? So in that case, these are just filler cards that are wasting space and potentially forcing us to play cards we don't want to play. instead of the strong stuff that we want to have. So rather than adding more good stuff, we'd like to remove the bad stuff and just have 100% perfect consistency. So we can draw into the good stuff with Magnifying Spyglass, but at the very start of the match, we can mulligan a couple of cards, but can't necessarily mulligan every bronze if we happen to draw into all of these guys simultaneously. So that's something we should bear in mind. And then at this stage, we're looking at Battle of some variety, and followed immediately thereafter by Treasure Chest of some variety. If we go the northern route, we can potentially pursue this elite battle, but as we said, I think that's actually not all that helpful to us. There's an elite battle down south as well. What about the middle road? It's just more normal battles. What about, we have some events here, potentially. Couple places of power. We have just one place of power, the southern route, and we have one, potentially 2 places of power, potentially 3 places of power, northern route, although that would require that we go through the elite battle, which is probably not something that we want to do. So I feel like middle road is probably our best bet here. Let's see what we have. Bounty Hunter, we've seen this guy before, several times before. Okay, see, the hard version, he is not. So for whatever reason, we've lucked out there. So this is what I mean. We draw into several good cards here, but unless we can mulligan these guys out and get something better, well, the Panther is a card we'd like to remove, and that first card that we draw into as well. We can't control that because now we can set up things with the Magnifying Spyglasses. So remember, the second Spyglass is actually the one that matters the most. The first one, all that matters is the first card that we get here, and this is going to be the very last card that we get in this match, which means probably Ulfhedin or Protoflutter would be the best. And this guy, as a reminder, will damage an enemy unit by 1, increase the damage by 1 for each marked enemy unit. Does that every other turn, so they're going to mark a whole bunch of cards and build up damage over time using that. So let us probably finish. Don't think they're going to have a lot of base power, which means Ulfhedin, I don't think this is a boosting opponent. This is definitely a damaging opponent. I think we'll see another Philippe. I remember seeing that a lot with this guy. So I think Protoflutter might be a better finisher than Ulfhedin is for that reason. So he'll be the last one, and then we'll just put the bad cards at the end. So this is card 1, 2, and 3 that we're getting right now. So we might want to get an early Greatsword because it can heal off some of that damage, which would be really nice. So I think we might go for you first. We also like early Synthesis Blazes. And not sure if they're going to have cards that we really want to lock, but maybe get Jenga just in case. Okay, so the thing about Unseen Elder is because it has Veil, they cannot mark it. So that is really useful. And in some ways, just shuts down, does just completely shut down their leader ability. So, or at least prevent them from marking anything. So playing him first, even if there isn't an immediate thing for him to poison, might not be the worst idea in the world. So I think we do that.
The gate must be secure.
Now, hoping they don't have enough damage to immediately destroy you, that'd be a problem. They have some damage, but not enough to immediately destroy you. Okay. They tried to mark, but it doesn't work. Now we can get this Greatsword out here, which will get healed, and now their leader ability is on cooldown, despite it not really doing anything last turn, which is nice. So if we're anticipating that we're going to use Drog, we're definitely not going to want to use it in this row, because we're going to want to keep Unseen Elder in his Unseen Elder form. So that means we should play things that we plan to convert in this range row. And what do we want to convert? Definitely Panther. Potentially Greatsword, although I imagine it's going to get damaged a lot, so we're going to still want to be able to heal that. Once this is done with all the rain, wouldn't mind converting you. If we can trigger your death blow, then we could actually convert you after that. But, I mean, technically we could immediately Thunder, drop you down to 1, and then get death blow right off the bat. That's probably overkill. Probably don't need to rush to that. Though I am a little bit tempted to do it just because they have already done more damage to Unseen Elder than I would like. Although that might just mean we cleanse them instead. Yeah. Why don't we go... We'll do Greatsword here. Unseen Elder will give bleed to this guy because he's an unbleeding enemy. So that'll give us 1 heal on this Greatsword. Then, just to play it safe on the Unseen Elder, so I'm a little concerned with the damaging deck that they have. I'm concerned that Unseen Elder could potentially go down. There's the bleed. I'll heal you up to a 5. Yeah, because it's another Brockvar Hunter.
I promise you a quick death.
Okay, so that's fine if they're hitting him. Still trying to mark Unseen Elder, but they are failing. So that's cool. Now we ideally use the Synthesis Blaze. It's going to take a turn before we can actually use the damage here. But once we do, it'll give us a lot more healing on the Greatsword. Ooh, is that enough damage? I don't think it is. It's very close. Very, very close. They tried to mark you, which is unfortunate, but we could even Drog on this turn. Once we go... I mean, these are weak and killable. On the other hand, they're theoretically cards we could set up for Drog. So it is kind of tempting. But we'll give some more bleed out from Unseen Elder, so maybe that's not the end of the world if we just use him to set you up. Like we go 1, 2. I know the bleed is going to destroy you at the end of their turn, but you are also going to use that order ability on your next turn. And that is, you're going to be able to do that before the bleed kicks in. So might go and get rid of you. Then can either get you down to a 1 and make you removable for either Drog or Gregoire. Or we should probably do that. There's a chance that Unseen Elder gives it bleed, in which case it will get destroyed by the bleed. But, then we'll eventually get bleed on you, and you'll take a little bit longer, but you'll get down into removal range as well. So now you are fully healed up. You've already used all your charges, and I think we can get rid of the mark if we transform you. So now we do this. We do lose that mark. Now you are a 1 power revenant, so they're smart. They should get rid of it. Could be reason to boost it up, but I think we'll be fine. If they do remove this one, they're not going to be able to remove our 10 power revenant. So 1 revenant is technically all we need to continue to chain more revenants together, and we did not get bleed on you, so that is preferable. Get in mark. But, looky here. Sure, I mean, the 3 bleed is overkill here, but we get this death blow, which is beautiful. You're going to get bleeding to this. You still have your order ability, but we'd like to wait for you to get a little bit weaker first. We're going to get a ton of units in this row, which is one of the reasons why I was excited to see Great Oak, because that means we can get pretty easy setup for you. So we could... You're just a deploy ability, so we don't really need to lock you. Guess we could get Melusine Cultist out here. Would like to have a death blow for Gregoire set up at some point in time, but I think we go this route now.
Hear my prayer.
Won't use this yet. We're waiting for this to drop down lower. The Revenant gets destroyed, but it already used its order ability, no problem. Ooh. Oh, we have enough marked cards. Yeah, they could get rid of it. That is unfortunate, but we still have 1 with an order ability, and again, it's going to be hard for them to get rid of a 10 power Revenant. So we'll put the rain down here. That will drop you down to a 1, and you down to a 3, which means if we go Panther, damage you down to a 2. Now you're both getting dropped down to a 1. One of you is going to get bleed from Unseen Elder. The other one will be a viable target for Kid Money Revenant or for Gregoire. Okay, Teruviel is solid damage. But we just don't have enough units out there for that to be all that significant. Yes, one of the cards went away. because of the bleed, but we do have our ideal target here. Close to having you be a removal target for Gregoire, so maybe we settle for this for now. And we could... What if we go Unseen Elder Order ability onto Ruviel, and then use Protoflutter here to get the big boost? And since we did not get quite as many Revenants as we had hoped for, I think I will start to deliberately play things in this range row. Still assume this is going to be more crowded than the other row. So, Great Oak is a little bit stronger.
You have my sword, and I'll cure
Okay, sure. I mean, it's might be the single worst enemy you could have targeted there. So now we can hit you, and sure, we're missing out on 1 point of bleed damage, but we spawn in another Revenant, which is nice. We looking for an opportunity for Gregoire here. Technically, Thunder on you gives it the option, but because you have bleed, it's possible for us to make it happen. Also, we do have some control here with the Great Oak. We know you're going to get the bleed from Unseen Elder, which means you'll be down to a 4. So if we get 3 points of damage on you, you'll be a 1, and we can get exactly 3 points of damage with this Great Oak if we'd like. So that means damage ending by the number of units to the left. So if we go 1 card to the left, 2 card to the left, 3 card to the left, drops you down to a 2. You'll get 1 damage from the bleed, and we get a little bit of boosts on the Great Oak, and we either trigger Death Blow from you or preferably Gregoire. Trap. I don't remember what we saw this do in the past. Okay, but you're gonna get pretty low. We're gonna have time to trigger this Death Blow for you, possibly. Or does that mean we continue to chain more Revenants and save this for Gregoire? I think we'll just take the sure thing here. So waiting for you to drop lower. Lots of traps. Got rid of our Great Oak there, but we still have a big enough lead here. Ooh. 1 power Revenants. We do have 1 more damage. I mean, we can lock you, but that does basically nothing. I mean, we'll do it. Actually, if we go this row, I think... Oh, no, it's not going to make a difference. I was going to say, I think that's going to force the Crushing Trap, which I assume this is also a Crushing Trap, to hit this row instead, and that means they're getting overkill damage on this. They're hitting a shielded unit here, whereas that's probably still a little bit better. Is it? I don't know, man. We should be fine either way. And just get the damage, because Warrant's realistically going to be able to get the Death Blow. We'll get more damage out of this. Oh no, it's actually boosting adjacent units, and there weren't any adjacent units. Or no, random allied units. Okay, fair enough. But alas, still comfortable win there. No problem. Normal Bounty Hunter, taken care of. Alright, so I was saying how, at this point in time, unless we had something amazing to add to the deck, and these are not particularly amazing cards, I think we're definitely looking for a move, and a Panther is exactly the card we're looking to get rid of, because it is the weakest card in our deck. So that's really nice. That significantly increases our consistency. And it means that next, we're looking at this treasure chest, so let's hop on in. See what we can nab here. And it will be... I don't think we need a magnifying spyglass. I think we can pass on that. 2 is more than enough. 3 is completely useless. Cloak of Invisibility is, well, I mean, we'd kind of like a passive, to be honest. So, yes, this is 15 points. We can't, if, for example, you wanted to put this on Unseen Elder, you can't get the immunity because he already has Veil. So you can't gain the immunity status. And adding Veil to a card that already has Veil obviously doesn't matter. So, I mean, if he somehow got purified, then we could add the immunity and the Veil and that point, but I mean, that's so unlikely to happen. So, probably not. I mean, you could use it on anything else, true. But the reason why I'm not so excited about this is because, as we've said before, we already have a lot of cards that we want to play from our hands, and we can control every card that we draw into with Magnifying Spyglass. So we already have 100% consistency with the cards that we draw into. So just adding one more card that we want to draw into when we can only draw into so many cards before the match ends is not very helpful. But if we have something that starts on the board and does not require that we draw into it, this is giving us incremental value. This is just, we're replacing one of our good cards with this instead. So, although it is odd, transforming an odd unit into a random one, I mean, there could be times when, if we, for example, have Drog, and we get some Revenants, the Revenants trigger, use their damage to spawn in another Revenant, then we could transform a Revenant that has already used that ability, and hopefully get something a little more valuable. So, not necessarily sure we have amazing setup for it, but we have a way to get a lot of units on the board, so it's possible that could be useful for us. And with that being said, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here, as we are getting fairly close to the end of the run here. We have an event coming up next, followed by, or probably, yeah, definitely an event coming up next, followed by Place of Power of some variety. We're looking pretty good on an energy, from an energy standpoint. Likely to go this route because this is an elite battle that we are saying is perhaps not as helpful as we had thought it might be, and then we're almost at the boss. So thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.